double check, folks. It is worth it. Worth checking your things. I always tell my clients, I become free labor the moment I just go in and clean up your licenses manually because then the $20,000 I just saved you is what I'm gonna bill you for your Jira configuration. So it's definitely worth checking out. And Atlassian makes it too easy for new users to come into your Jira without you even knowing. So those approved domains or even anybody on the internet, like Atlassian makes it super easy in the cloud. Like folks will just jump in there and you don't even know. They don't have to come in through your IDP. They don't have, you don't even have to invite them. Like other friends can invite friends and it just snowballs out of control. So you want to stay on top of that.
Good, perfect. When Atlassian user management stops being an admin problem, that's an interesting sentence because it could mean two things. It could mean you have solved it completely and everything is automated, or it could mean you failed completely and it's now on the boss table or on the management table. So I want to talk about with you a little bit about user management in the Atlassian world. And yes, I know user management is nothing where people are super excited. Yeah, so it's not the most loved child in the room. It will be also not normally the topic on Team 26 in Anaheim. Alex, by the way, thanks for the restaurant recommendations, really good. So it is something what is needed, what is necessary, and what was in the last 10, 15 years not so visible because of a lot of reasons, and I will come to some of them. So I want to share three stories, three real stories, what happened with customers or also ex-companies from me. So, and the first story is about why is my Atlassian bill so high? I think a lot of people can agree to this. So what happened here? Last year, it was a little bit cheaper. We have a second story which goes about, okay, let's just migrate to cloud with all our data center stuff. And we fix a mess then in cloud instead of on data center. And the third one will be about, and that's a nice bridge then, hopefully, Marion, to you, who has actually access to something. So three interesting stories. Let's start with the first one. So the first one, you see a screenshot in German here. I haven't translated it because I really wanted to prove that this story is real. So this is an ex-boss from me who wrote me the last time, 2019, when I joined Resolution, and said, hey, congrats, have fun in your new job. And then 6 years later, 6.5 years later, nearly, I got a second message. And the message is simple saying, hey, Björn, are you doing something, services or app stuff for license optimization? Story relatively simple. We started many years ago with Atlassian with $30,000 cost for the whole Atlassian stack, and we are now on $300,000, but we have the same user number. How can it be? So the interesting point is this person is managing an IT company as well. So they normally know the license business and so on. And this is a 2000 user IT company. So, and he's the CEO of the company. So that was a classic point. Somebody put the user management topic on the manager's table. So relatively clear story. So what happened here? I just picked the last decade of Atlassian's price journey. And you can accelerate this and you can scale it up when you also pick product changes like server to data center in it or data center to cloud, or that you have specific products which are sold as new products like Jira Product Discovery, for example, or a portal somewhere or some assets and so on. So when you simple sum up the last 10 years as an Atlassian customer, then the story was a little bit that every year the price increase felt somehow manageable. But when you sum it up, you come up to a 2 or 3 time price minimum. So as you have seen in my real world example, it was 10 times more for this company. And this is an interesting effect because this means, okay, maybe you do some license optimization and so on. That's one part of the story. The second part of the story is that you also need to adapt all the new features and functionalities that you have somehow a value out of these price increases. And another interesting point is in the last 10 years, I would say roughly in the first 8 years of the last 10 years, nobody took really attention to this because Atlassian was relatively cheap when you compared it to other tools and so on. And the economy was in a great shape. So price was not the most important stuff on this storyline. So what was the solution? So we made a couple of workshops with them, relatively quick. We identified a lot of inactive users and said, okay, do they really need to have a license when they haven't used the tool since over 6 months? We also found things like forgotten contractors. They are still working for the company. So Mario, no compliance topic here, but they still work for the company, but they're working just once per year for the company for a classic scenario in December to do some cleanup tasks in the stock and so on. So why should these people license the whole year? It makes totally no sense. You have other aspects like ghost invites. So when you invite somebody and you give them already in the beginning product access, they are on your bill. And a lot of people like me getting invites to some instances and somehow in the spam folder, you can't find them and you never join. But the person who invited you is still paying for it. And you have for sure these rounding errors, which can be relatively hard when you are on data center or on cloud on a yearly plan. You need to buy these licenses in tiers, and one license more as your tier end could mean that you jump. This is a data center example here from 1,000 users to a 2,500 user license relatively quickly. So people should be aware of that. So we solved all these stuff for them. So we said, okay, first we need to have the visibility. Then we should talk about what are our inactivity rules. We talked about the tier awareness again. And this at the end made a cost reduction from them more than 30%. It was possible for them to lower the tier in the upcoming renewal. And at the end, the manager was happy again. But this is an important learning of this story. Yeah? When something came up to a CEO of $300,000 license cost and was 30,000 before, then you have normally already a problem when you are responsible for an Atlassian environment. And in most cases, you want to solve it earlier. Let's jump to story number 2. I had today a call with this customer. We have already a couple of Zoom sessions. I met this customer. It's a long year customer from us. But I met first time in person October last year in Barcelona on Team 25. And at this point, they were still on data center with 5,000 licensed users, Jira, 26,000 Confluence users. So relatively big German industrial company, very innovative. And they cried already big tears because now they need to move to cloud. And this super quick because they got these amazing offer from Atlassian. When they switch now, then it's a little bit cheaper here and they get a little bit more support there. And they really said, okay, let's move all our data centers. They had multiple data centers. Let's move them to one cloud organization. And this was a good decision because it was a commercial decision which made totally sense. When you look at the moment on their dashboard, then they really see these screenshots on the Atlassian side. And this is bad. And this is where this organization feels also a little bit, let's say, lonely. So the migration is done. There's a lot of stuff which is now messy, which need to be cleaned up. And a big thing is what need to be cleaned up. In the migration, it came out, yes, these are the licensed users, but on the left side here, what the billing shows. But at the end, they have a lot more because they have customers, they have guests. So it means huge cleanup needed to happen, huge sync needed to happen. The initial sync just for Jira took over 6 weeks with Microsoft Entra, was a problem from Atlassian and Entra together, and their complex structure of 110,000 groups. So just think about 125,000 users, 110,000 groups. Alex, you are in Jira admin. That's not really common, or that nearly every user has his own group.
Not a lot of users and groups, but that's still a lot.
Yeah. So means a lot of mess. And what does it mean now for them? So the administrator team are 2 persons for this organization. So two-person who handle these 126,000 users. So they have the cleanup tasks, they have these problems with this 6 weeks sync stuff. They have now this dual maintenance window where they need to shut down the data center. All users are still on data center. They need to get Jira up and running. So it's a lot of pressure plus additional things like single sign-on, SCIM, and so on. So the commercial pressure has won here for really, really good reasons. But at the end, and this was a management decision at the end, but this meant for the admin team, oh, now we have the pressure to deliver here and not making this commercial effect broken in the first renewal because they figure out we need not 5,000 users and 26, no, we need a lot more. So where they are now, their syncing is done since a week, so that's good. But now we are doing the cleaning up together with them. So we're identifying these inactive users. They have complete different user behaviors because it's an industrial company, a little bit senior what you said. So just a couple of people using it, but the rest is doing real work in the factory and building stuff with their hands. So all these stuff need to be solved. We're in the middle of the process. It's super interesting. I joined them every 2 days nearly in the actual situation to get more information out of it. Story number 3. Who actually has access to it? And this is, we are direct coming from our SOC 2 audit. So it means you have these a phase where 3 months everything is stored, monitored, etc. Then you need to ask a couple of questions, and when you did a good job, then you get your SOC 2 badge. But ask these questions in a lot of companies, you get a lot of interesting answers. And very often the answer is, I don't know why this guy or this person has access to it. It was always like this. And that shouldn't be the case. And normally when somebody asks this question, an external auditor or a manager, because something happened, then we are already in a crisis. And then in a lot of companies, it looks like, oh, let's do a database dump, download all features, make some spreadsheets, like to try to clarify some stuff. And at the end, you end up with information which are not, first of all, really valuable because it's hard to prove and you can't see why specific persons have access to specific groups, teams, projects, Confluence pages, you name it. So what does it mean? What is important here to do? Important is that you have instant answers to these questions. And I think Marion will explain more why this is the case. But this brings also confidence to the person who's asking. And you should define a system where your policies are somehow saved filters or saved information that you can immediately see what is going on here. So when somebody asks, okay, who has access to the secret project launch for 2027, then immediately an administrator should be enabled to answer. And this is not the case with the standard built-in functionalities from Atlassian. It needs accountability, group visibility, and a lot of other things. But let me just give you a 30-second overview how it could look like. So to solve all these problems, you could use, and yeah, sorry, a tool like from us. So the user manager for Atlassian, and you get a complete overview what is going on in your organization. So it works organization-wide. You can have multiple sites. I can see immediately how many active users I have on specific Atlassian products and can also go to more details, how many are inactive and so on. And when I just want to see, okay, what is, by the way, with these contractors from the last project, what we had, then you can simply load a filter when it's loading contractors, and you get all your contractors here. And if you want, you can also easily suspend them or take away the product access for all products, suspend the user, etc. So this is normally done user by user from administrators, or they created their scripts or their tools and so on. And this is getting more and more complicated and complex. That's why professional solutions for these whole user management topic are needed, that you have a happy admin, and best case, your manager, CEO, etc., never has awareness about Atlassian licenses, because then you know you have managed it really good. That's it. Unbelievable. I'm in time. That's normally not my behavior. So when you have questions to this, ping me on LinkedIn. Like Alicia said, check our website, check the marketplace, give it a try. We are happy to jump in a session with you to understand your story and to hopefully help you with that. Question time.
Very useful, Bjorn. I got carpal tunnel one time trying to go through 65,000 users. Because it's like
Yeah,
you only see like 20 at a time, and then you gotta like all the dates for their last inactive date, like they blur up. And so like
yeah.
2024, 2026, 2025, like you gotta be paying attention and like then you gotta go 20 at a time and a lot of clicking.
Yeah, that's a little bit what I learned, that these also the summary numbers with a failing load, when you have something below or more than 100,000 users, they're not loading anymore. So I think that's oof, too
Yes, it's
much.
painful. It is very painful.